Yeah, all right, welcome to our mission meeting work session on May 13th. Have Commissioner Faur here. I'm Commissioner Sharon Bolos. We also have Sean Wilkinson, Steve Collier, Liam Keough. Is Bahi coming?
No, he's not.
Okay. All right, we'll start with agenda item 1, discussion and or action for approval of the minutes for the commission work session that was held on April 29th, 2024 and May 6th, 2024.
Move to approve.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 2 is a closed session to discuss the purchase, exchange, or lease of real property, rail right of way in the Weaver Industrial Park. So I would entertain a motion to leave the public meeting and go to a closed meeting.
Motion to go into closed session.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
So move, Master.
Second, all in favor?
Aye. We're back.
Okay, we're back. Looking for the next group, which includes Sean. Sean, you just hang out here all
I do,
afternoon.
Monday afternoons.
Looks like you're gonna be here, John.
I'll be here for a little while. There we go. I got it.
There's Bill.
Yep,
You got Portman out there with
he
you?
is, I remember Bryce. They're both coming.
There they are. Wow.
They were sitting down.
They were sitting down on that comfy couch. Okay, we're on agenda item 3, discussion regarding fridge and freezer contract for the sheriff's office. We have Bryce Taylor, Portland Erickson, Bill Ross, and Jessica Clark also joined us at this point.
Yeah, so this is a contract that came through commission for approval a few weeks ago with the original contract that we had written up. When we sent it to restaurant and store equipment, there was a couple of more clarification changes that were sent back from the company. So this is kind of just an update to let you know. It will be, I think it's approved, wasn't it, Portland? Did you see it come through the contract?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it'll be on tomorrow's agenda just for reapproval, basically, but that's it. Just some clarification on some items. The dollar amount didn't change, scope of work didn't change. Basically, just some clarification items. So if you'd like to know what they are, the one was about bringing in a subcontractor to do the work. We did allow that to happen because they have to have a sprinkling system and some other companies certified to do that work. There's clarification on the warranty. It's a 1-year warranty, not an ongoing, reoccurring 1-year warranty. Some clarification on when the 2-week window started. In the original contract, we had a 2-week window that this work needed to be completed. There was just some of when that time actually would start. And so we clarified that in the new contract. And that's about it. They'll carry the insurance and then just some progress payments going to them. So
Okay.
that's about it.
Any
No
questions?
major questions.
Are you gonna be there to
Changes.
present it tomorrow?
Yes, I think it might, I don't know if it's coming across as just a consent.
Oh, is it okay?
Yeah, Shelley said something about maybe just a
Gotcha.
consent, but
Okay.
I will be there if
Okay.
any
So
questions.
if you'd like to embarrass him, that's okay.
That's what I was
Make
getting
it stand
at.
I will be there. yes.
Okay. All right, sounds
So,
good.
yep, just some clarification, just so if you guys seen this come up as another, same contract, just to let you know.
Okay.
That's
Same
something.
thing we've been discussing on that freezer and
Yep,
for the sheriff's kitchen out there for quite a while, right?
Yeah.
yep, we've been working on it. As soon as we get this signed, we'll be able to get the equipment ordered and on its way. So,
Nice.
Okay, thank you.
Yep,
Great. No
All right.
questions
All
for me.
right. Moving right along.
thank you.
Thanks, you guys.
Maybe we'll set a record today.
Well, you know, if we do, we'll have to tell Commissioner Harvey about it for sure.
Yeah.
Are the others out there right now? Okay. Then I'll entertain a motion to honor.
Motion to Sonner till 1:30.
A second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. for a second, but you're out
Close to
loud.
the center, so.
Okay, we're back with agenda item number 4, discussion regarding project idea and animal shelter audit findings. Ricky Hatch, Mark View, John Bond, Scott Parks, Stephanie Ebert, and Sean Wilkinson's here, and Jessica. Okay,
Okay, Sean, would you like to go ahead?
looks like he's in charge.
Well, first we'll talk about the project idea. We talked about this as the internal audit committee. And it's really a process improvement, money savings, efficiency ideas created by employees who would then most likely receive some kind of reward or compensation or something like that. But Mark brought it up at the last audit committee meeting. It got favorable response, but we wanted to talk to the commission because a project like this will only be successful if it's owned by and promulgated by the commission. If John and I did it and the sheriff did it, it would be marginally successful. But I think the real key is to get buy-in and proactive ownership by the commission. What we would like to do, Mark King is a consultant that the sheriff has brought in to consult on lean consulting principle, lean concepts, and he's done a couple of classes, which I went to one of them, the 5-month course or whatever, and really liked it. They're doing another one right now that's just about wrapping up. It's a good course and a good project, and he's a good instructor. What we would like if the commission, if you're okay moving forward with this, what we'd like to do is have a very shortened version where he talks about these types of programs, employee generated ideas and suggestions. And I like the presentation that he has. He goes over different ways that you can do it and the pros and cons of each. And what really brings up the most effective participation and response. It takes about a couple of hours, but I'd like to see if you're okay as commission to invite him in. There's no additional cost to the county, and have the electeds and the department heads, or at least a subset of the department heads, participate in that 2-hour training session where we could evaluate and ask questions and see if this is something that we would want to do. If as a commission, you're okay with that, then we'll go ahead and work with you and with him to find a time that's best. And we could have that discussion, and people might say, yeah, I'm just not feeling the love. And if that's the case, we're not out anything, and we just don't do it. So the investment is really time of the leaders of the county. So that's it for the project idea. Just wanted to get your thoughts if you want to take the step forward and promote that, or at least explore that. But I do want it to make sure that for it to be successful, it would have to come from the commission. So I want to make sure that you would be confident to take that on.
How does that presentation differ from what he does for the sheriff's office? Because I know the sheriff has an ongoing, like, he goes through those cycles every couple times a year and.
Yeah, it's sorry, go ahead.
So it's the Kaizen principle that he doesn't necessarily cover in the sheriff stuff. So it's just strictly focused on like process improvement, project ideas, how to do continuous improvement in your organization, and how to reward those people for that activity. So it does differentiate from the sheriff's, but he was kind enough, Mark King, the consultant, to say, I don't want to double dip here and charge you double. I'm already on retainer with the sheriff, so that was kind of a good deal for us.
So he's not gonna charge any extra then?
Right.
Correct.
And that would be a subset. He does talk about this
Yeah.
type of thing in the overall program, but that program is probably 20 hours of instruction versus this would just be a 2-hour thing.
Yeah.
So the sheriff has experienced a return on investment already of like 80 grand.
Right.
They had taking his principles and they did some stuff and they came up with 80 grand. I know, John Bond, you were talking about, you had savings in your organization when somebody came to you with a suggestion. And so, we're trying to leverage off that and really take advantage of all the corporate knowledge that all the employees have. There's thousands of them. So why not tap into that?
Yeah,
I don't see a problem with the presentation, but it is a lot of time, and I would want the input from the directors for sure. Because I don't think the commissioners, I'm only speaking for myself here, I don't think the commissioners can get behind it unless the directors and managers are.
Yeah.
I mean, it really has to be all the levels. Commissioner Forward, thoughts?
well, so are you suggesting that this come with the presentation before the directors and the
And
all
the
the elected
electeds.
as well, or just the
Yeah.
elected, I guess?
I'm thinking, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm thinking commission, electeds, and at least a couple of key directors. Certainly the three super bosses,
Okay,
and maybe a couple of, maybe.
Who coined that phrase?
Maybe, Linda, health department possibly.
well, if there's no, my main concern was when we talked about it was if it's the same thing that we're paying, that the sheriff's paying for, I don't necessarily like the duplication, but if it's a subset of that and it's like a 2-hour presentation with no cost, think because it came up in, the ideas discussed in audit committee, I thought were great.
Right,
And it's really about how we can reward people for coming up with innovative ideas,
right.
how we can improve things, so I don't see, other than a couple hours that we may, lose in terms of other production, it could pay off. So I'm willing to take the risk on it, but I would like at least the super bosses there and,
For sure.
and then if they could either say, hey, this is something that, at the end of that time frame, I'm assuming that everybody would say, hey, is this something we wanna
Yeah.
send down the line, or is it, gonna get us anywhere?
Yeah.
So, to me, it's worth the 2-hour investment.
Okay,
So what we'll do is we'll communicate that to Mark and then to you, and we'll start working
Okay.
on a time that we can do that.
Yeah.
okay,
To me, I think this is it's a great opportunity to implement, yes, some changes, but more importantly, implement a mindset. Shift of continuous improvement, which
Mhm.
that class is great. I think at least some version of that overall class that they've done. I think we should have that be on a rotating schedule and start implementing it in HR and employee improvement plans or employee goals and things like that. Because it really,
The sheriff's left that open to everyone,
yeah, and
that's why you're.
I did it. I've got 2-3 employees that are doing it. And yeah, we implemented some savings in elections as well that have since been discussed statewide as some of the improvements that we've made. So,
Yeah, never hurts to learn stuff like that.
right. And if in the end
Yeah.
we're just lukewarm, then we're
Okay.
done.
Right.
And that was the cost, 2
Yeah.
hours.
Okay, yeah, work on that. Get that scheduled.
Great.
I've spent more for less.
Okay,
For the rest, we've got the animal shelter. Mark has completed his audit. And what I wanted to do, and I'll let him talk primarily, but this is purely an informational thing to present to you some of the recommendations that have come out of the audit and nothing more. We wouldn't anticipate you making any decisions today as a commission on the future of the animal shelter, how it would be structured and things like that. But Mark has put together a bunch of different options. And I thought for the remaining 10 minutes, 20 minutes or so, he would just go over those and we could just, and I asked John and Steph and Scott to be involved, and Sean, of course, to be involved as, to lend their expertise and perspective as well. And I have copies of the audit committee report.
Thank you.
can you email this as well so that Commissioner Harvey can review this?
We can do that. Nice. Gonna ask you this. You don't know, I do.
You do your own pictures, Mark?
So I'll neither deny nor confirm. So, what I wanted to talk about, I feel like I'm a mediator at a divorce hearing. The sheriff doesn't want animal shelter, and the director of the animal shelter doesn't want the sheriff.
Oh, I hadn't heard,
That
I heard
sounds
the one, I
easy
hadn't
then.
heard the former.
So it's kind of mutual.
Okay.
It's kind of mutual that they're thinking that they could be more successful separate. And
Okay,
that is really my takeaway from the audit that I did. In 2023, you'll notice on page 2, they lost $145,000 in the modified accrual accounting method. They're just struggling, and they're struggling because they've gone from a no-kill shelter to, or sorry, from a kill shelter to a no-kill, to a no-kill shelter,
right,
which is much more expensive, the no-kill version. And I present a lot of different options, starting with special service district on page 2, and then it goes through different organizational setups that you can create to have an entity that would run this. My favorite is actually the first, the special service district, because it lets the entity charge the client something that they can live by, something that they can be positive, net positive on. The director of the shelter, Chad, he's in favor of the special service district as well, so that's just kind of how I felt on it. It's something that the cities can't do on their own. It's too expensive for them to go create their own animal shelter. So it's a way to pass the reasonable cost on to the cities for the animal shelter service, especially in the no-kill scenario. Scott, I know you had some financials on a peer organization. Was it Davis County?
Yeah, Davis County, I don't have their full picture because they do it as part of their general fund. I could see the revenues that they brought in and I could see their expenses that they charged to, and they were losing like $600,000. So they're subsidizing it significantly. Now, I can't guarantee all that because I can't see everything. It's part of the general fund. It's a big mess. It's a big, in there, but you can go ahead. I have a comment eventually on the special service districts that they just become expensive over time. When you look at the same services offered in a general purpose government and a special service district, over time, those special service district costs go up higher and faster than the general government because there's no competition. So I need more money, I'll just pass a tax increase. I need more money, I'll just go pass a tax increase. Whereas when there's part of the general government, which is a pain for the commissioners, because now you're watching it, but somebody's actually watching it.
Sure.
So that's the one downside there.
So again, we're just having an open discussion about possibly doing this reorganization into a different subgroup. I don't know that the commission is excited to keep it. I think it makes sense to let it go, to spin it off.
well, that's discussion's been going on for the last 3 or 4 years.
Right.
That, yeah. Unfortunately, we've kind of bought into the animal shelter business via the bonds. So with the special service district, how does that impact the 3 or 4 cities that are tied in, whatever it is?
More than that, aren't there?
Well, it's most of the cities are on the bond. Now, the bond only goes for a few more years,
Okay,
but if it's gonna have taxing authority, it has to go to the vote of the people.
okay,
So the people would have to vote to give this, because we could spin it off as a special service district that's only fee-based, but they can't survive on fees.
right,
So if it has property tax, it's gotta go through a vote. So if everybody votes for it, then we would spin it off. We'd have to decide if we're gonna give them the animal shelter, if we're just gonna give them a lease and keep the land or whatever we wanna do on that. So there's some decisions to be made on that,
But it
but
would have to pass on a ballot.
it'd have to pass on a ballot. People would have to grant that new special service district taxing authority.
okay. Do we have you have any idea what the potential tax potential for a citizen would be? Roughly.
I didn't calculate that. So it'd be, they're operating currently with a let's just say $1 million budget.
Yeah, it looks like $1 million, $1,000,001 something.
Yeah, so what would that be per household? I mean, I don't know, it'd be,
So
it would be very small in terms of a tax increase.
I was gonna say, it's a lot different than a $30 million, building bond. So.
Yeah, I mean, it would probably be dollars per year.
$10 per parcel if all parcels were the exact same value.
Okay, so that's really, yeah,
Not a huge amount of, not a huge amount of money, at least now, but you'd have to get everybody to vote for it. Then we would just essentially spin off that enterprise fund, which is how we have it currently.
So it goes to vote, then we appoint the board.
Yeah, or however, because I believe we can have them, depending on the district, if it's a local or a special, you could have the citizens vote for the board, or we could have them still appointed by you to. So we have lots of different options. So
Yeah,
this batch 911, they went, we'll go get a vote of the people, but we'll have the county commissioners appoint most of the board. There's others where you could be a local district and do the same thing, but you don't have to appoint the boards. They can run on their own
Yeah.
and not be accountable to the
so
commissioners.
we could run it the same as 911.
Mhm.
Okay.
But if you do that, then you're responsible for the tax
You're
increases.
the governing board. Is that the first discussion I had with you when you were elected?
With 911?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we had to go and raise taxes the first year.
You had some general
Yeah.
concerns.
They were bankrupt, we're going close to it.
Same.
Well, yeah. To me, it's time to address it.
Somehow, yeah, but why don't you go through the other options that you explored?
All right, so we've got an enterprise fund.
Which is what it is now, right?
Correct.
Correct. So it's status quo. The other options are direct department management. The pros there is that still the county maintains direct oversight and control over the programs. What I thought was interesting for the con was that there is still a reliance on nonprofit partner, and it introduces dependency and potential risks if the organization faces financial or operational challenges. So that's a con that I thought was pretty big in the direct departmental management sphere. Public-private partnerships. You leverage private sector expertise and technology and resources to drive efficiencies and innovations with the new entity that you set up. Again, there's a little bit of a loss of control as far as a con. The government oversight may be limited in the PPP arrangements. And then finally, interagency collaboration. The pro that I thought was attractive there was economies of scale. But one of the cons is that it's a complex governance. There's interagency collaborations that's involving multiple stakeholders with diverse priorities. So again, I still like the SSD, the Special Services District, because it lets them control their own destiny. I think it's the cleanest way to spin them off, in my personal opinion, but that's just a roadmap to, the decisions that have to be made.
I'll tell you what I really like. The nonprofit organization. Isn't there some place else in Utah that has something like that? Kane County?
Yeah, Kane County has friends,
Yeah,
Best friends or something.
yeah, best friends.
yeah.
And then what about Salt Lake, the animal shelter in Salt Lake, right on Murray along I-15? Is that part of the government there? I thought that was a private.
That's where Chad came from, right? Chad, the current director,
Oh, did
he
he?
came from Salt Lake.
No, not
He was
sure.
the assistant director out there. I believe it was a URS. I don't know whether it's a separate special service district or not, but I think it was government because he was in the same retirement system.
That's the one that intrigues me the most, because you have people with passion running that and. You know what I mean?
There was a, if I recall correctly, there was a veterinarian that took a lot of interest in our animal shelter and had a lot to say about how things were being done, and I think was looking at wanting to do something like that. The Ellis? I don't remember. Christy Ellis? I don't have any of the details, but I thought that she was looking into something like that and was interested.
I just feel like if we could get a nonprofit group to take it,
I'd love
it would be
it.
a great way to offload it.
Well, I'd love, my first concern is I'd like it off of Weber County's back and onto somebody else.
I agree. I think all three of us agree. with that.
So if we could go the nonprofit route, I would do that in a heartbeat. But I'd wanna, the Friends that functions out of Kane County, they just lost all their funding from the major national organization. So, what concerns, if we could find a nonprofit that had the financial capability to continue it, but I don't wanna offload it to nonprofit and then still have them dependent on Weber County for funding. If we're gonna get rid of it, I wanna get rid of it. Kind of like we've seen now with, the housing authority. We're finally, offloading the housing authority on their own. I'd just as soon not go through that process with a nonprofit on the animal shelter either.
Yeah.
If they come in and they say we can show they've got the financial resources to do it, great. But I don't know how we come up with how do we go out and twist an arm with a nonprofit that's gonna do it without government support?
I mean, we survive based off of fees that we're charging all the different cities, and the cities right now are pushing back hard because
Right.
we're charging a huge amount of fees, and at the same time, we're having all these pressures to
Mhm.
try to
Right.
pay our employees more and hire more
Mhm.
employees and spend more
Right.
money. It's tough. I don't think that we can get very much more out of the cities before they start to say,
No.
look, we're out.
No, but how does a
Yeah.
how does a nonprofit do it?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They're gonna see, I guess maybe the benefit is if they didn't have to pay the retirement and the insurance,
Yeah.
if they were able to get some
Sure.
private employees in there with a cheaper retirement that were really passionate about that. Maybe they could have a lower operating cost, but I don't know the answer.
Yeah.
I don't know that pushing it from one department to another department solves anything.
No,
No,
I think it's, yeah, so. I mean, maybe administratively you get different people in there in the short, I don't know, that's a,
to me, it's
Policy
either a
decision.
special service district or a nonprofit.
yeah,
And if you can get but I'd want some pretty good assurances if it's a nonprofit that we cut the strings. Because I've seen too many cases where, yeah, we'll come in as a nonprofit, but we want X millions of dollars from Weber County, we're
Mhm.
back in the mix.
right.
mhm.
Well, what is the obligation for each entity, each city, each county? I mean, there's some obligation to take care of animals.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yes. I don't, at what level?
You mean by statute?
Yeah.
Are we required to?
Well, yeah, and you have South Ogden that has a very different picture of what their animal shelter is, and I think Riverdale and South Ogden use that one. That's way cheaper than what
Mhm.
we have, and not as great of an operation for sure. But what level and what obligation do we have? I don't know the answer. I'm just asking the question because we still would, even if we offload it to a nonprofit, would still have some type of obligation to fund our share of whatever that may be,
Mhm.
I would think.
Yeah, and and again, as long as the nonprofit, we had contracts, agreements in place. That the cities that were involved with it had to provide so much. But I just don't want it to be just a Weber County obligation.
And I think the cities that are still in, I mean, I think several of them may jump ship and want the South Ogden model because of the cost,
Right.
but because they signed this 40-year
The bond.
agreement for the bond, they're stuck.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I don't know, when that bond is paid off, I think you'll see people jump and
Oh,
ship.
yeah.
I
think
bet you
so
North
too.
Ogden, I mean,
Yeah,
at the time,
they're-
North Ogden was like, the day that it's paid off, we're out, we'll have a chain link fence in our back with a dog bowl of, food and water dish and.
I think I know another city who's on
Yeah.
that same page.
Right.
what's the time frame on that? Did you say 5 years?
No,
Honestly,
2030, right? 2029, 2030.
yeah.
So we're close, we're within a few years.
Cheers.
So 6, 7 years, whatever, yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember what the 2020 sales tax bond is? I don't remember exactly.
I can check.
And it's a small amount too.
It's not
I
that
mean,
much.
It's like $1 million, a little over $1 million is all that's left on that bond.
Right.
We didn't pay it off early just because it's the responsibility of the cities. Otherwise, we would have paid it off.
Mhm.
It's more of an
2020.
irritation than it is. Yeah. So I would hate to spit it off to a not-for-profit or a special service district if all the cities are then just gonna pop out of it because
Wow.
they may not even be part of it. So I don't know what our statutory obligation is. Maybe we say, look, our animal shelter is gonna be for Weber County unincorporated. And that's it.
well, I think that's a good starting point is to find out what our obligation is.
Yeah.
At least for me.
Yeah,
I mean, we had Chris Crockett look into the question as do we have to offer the service? And I believe he came back and said, no, we don't have to offer an animal shelter.
I don't remember that, but that's what I was wondering.
Yeah, I remember
Is that
having
a
that
good idea?
discussion.
Well, but so if you don't, then they're gonna call the sheriff's office when somebody's dog's out in the street, right?
Yeah.
So we're still gonna be dealing with it.
They are?
Well, I mean, if the dog's out, if the cow's out in the middle of the road and there's no animal shelter, animal control to call, you call the police. Right?
Right.
And so then the police go deal with it. So I mean, there's still a service that's going to be, have to be provided.
And it's hard to put it on the backs of just unincorporated,
Mm-hmm.
especially, you know, depending on what happens in Ogden Valley.
Right.
Cause then that goes out with half, basically close to half.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know, I'd love to have a idea where we're going with this in the next 12 months, if not before.
So I could get, if you'd like, I could have Chris Crockett prepare, just review the statute and say, this is exactly what our responsibility would be. And see if we could even just get rid of the, I mean, maybe once the animal shelter bond's paid off, we just shut down the animal shelter. We just don't offer it in that form anymore. Maybe we go to the South Ogden model, you know, it's a very cheap. I mean, I realize people get upset if I say this, but what's the cost of a no-kill shelter versus a kill shelter? And is that something that if we say, look, citizenry, if you want a no-kill shelter, then vote on this to support a special service
Mhm,
district
sure.
with the tax of this amount. Otherwise, this is the level of service we're going to offer.
That really lays it out for the public to decide.
Yeah,
I've just pulled up the state code 11-46-103. Each municipal or county animal control officer shall hold or cause to be held at an animal shelter any unidentified or unclaimed stray animal and other animals taken into custody in safe and humane custody for a minimum of 5 business days at the time of impound, prior to making any final decision regarding disposition. So,
So it's not necessarily a county responsibility.
yeah, I'm not seeing that it's,
That's pretty vague. It says municipality or county.
pretty,
yeah,
Oh, I
animal.
think, yeah, I think it's a city, each city responsibility, and I would think. There's a statutorial concern, but then there's also a, what if we don't offer this service? How many stray cats are there gonna be, or how many at-large dogs are there gonna be in the community? Those types of things, I don't know how you quantify that, but that might be something to consider as well.
And essentially, we're just contracting with the cities to provide their service that they have to.
Right, right.
Cause the other option is the Davis County model where they got rid of paramedics and now everybody's bill went up for paramedics. We're spending 4 times as much for paramedic
Right.
services in Davis County because
See?
the county didn't want to do it. you
Right.
know, So
yeah,
that would be the only other risk is, okay, everybody do your own animal control. Now,
Right.
in total, the citizens are paying $5 million a year for the same service they got for $1 million.
So if it goes to a vote for special service district, that's all part of the messaging, right?
Mhm.
This is the cheapest way
it's by
is
far,
to do a district, or you can all go build your own.
the cheapest way. And I agree with what Scott said. If we just say, hey, we're out of the animal control business, then what happens when there's, again, horses on the road or stray dogs? The sheriff's gonna get beat up and the sheriff's gonna come to us. You know, in good form and say, look, you know, I've got these additional duties now because of this. What do you do with it? And we fund him and where do we house it? So I just don't see that's realistic to be out of the business.
Hmm.
As much as I'd like to, I think we have to provide it in some form. Whatever that form
We'd be
is.
out of the business, but we'd help someone else.
Well,
get
yeah,
in
no,
business.
Yeah.
yeah, we should offer that, somebody should offer that service.
Still have to participate, whether or not we're the one leading it.
Yeah,
That's the question.
let somebody else do the management,
Mhm.
you know, day-to-day headaches, is what I'm saying, yeah.
I don't think you're looking for an answer today, but those are my 2 preferred options.
Yeah,
Special service district or a nonprofit. I'd really like to learn more about a nonprofit, what that,
We could ask Jason to put out a request for information to see if anybody would even be interested in.
maybe. Maybe it's that, but also just looking into other counties that have that model.
do other counties have nonprofits
Wasn't that what you said, Kane?
Kane does, I'm not,
besides Kane?
Davis.
They were
isn't, so we-
receiving money from,
There's a national
Oh.
organization that cut funding just this last year for them. And it was, like,
Was that gonna impact their shelter?
yeah, they had to go out and then do a community. I don't know if they did a tax down there, what they did, but yeah, they were $100,000 short.
I'd be interested to hear more about theirs and if anyone else does it.
Yeah,
Would it be possible, maybe we give Mark a follow-up and say, look at every county that's a third class or above in Utah and maybe even some of the surrounding states and just see what their model is? And who has a not-for-profit or, you know, which one's 5 counties together? Let's just kind of get some
I think
ideas
that
of
would
what's
be
actually
useful.
out there.
yeah, I really, we should look at, I think, looking at what out, what's out there in both forms. I'd like to see, okay, what counties are operating under special service districts, which ones are operating under nonprofit, and then,
And
here
which ones are county operated?
which ones are county operated, yeah,
And who's doing that? Is it their sheriff's office? Like us,
or,
you know?
yeah. Or does every county just turn it over to every city that has their own,
Yeah,
pass it on?
Well, I think the cities did have their own, and that's why they said this isn't working for us.
Yeah.
Let's
And that's
build
when they
a-
built the
Let's
building.
build a new shelter and everybody put
That's-
their money in, and now that doesn't work either.
Well, isn't that what it came about? Ogden City had their own for a while, and they came back and said, boy, we're just, can't.
cause they were taking everyone's.
They were taking everybody, and it was a money loser. Not quite as much as the airport, but it was losing a lot of money, and they said, okay, and Weber County was gracious enough to say, okay, we'll take it on the management headaches, and so here we are today.
Okay, yeah, let's look at those.
Looks like Utah County, it's under the sheriff.
Is it?
Based on our-
That's what you're gonna find in most jurisdictions.
That's so
is it falls
interesting, 'cause
under
it
the
just
law
seems so
enforcement.
unrelated.
It's
Well, I
public
think
safety.
Other than
because
just
it's
the calls.
animal
Public
control.
safety.
Is it public safety?
It's public safety. That's how even Davis County categorizes those expenses.
Well, they have
public
they have
safety.
animal control, which is a separate
Mhm.
animal, separate animal.
Separate animal.
But then it relates to the shelter, so I didn't ask why it just happens
Sure.
to fall into that.
Yeah,
But either way, if special service district or the sheriff, you're still gonna have to pay for it. All you've done in Utah County is put it on the sheriff's budget as a separate department to raise, so you're still raising
Uh-huh, right.
taxes in that area.
Mhm.
So you're gonna have it. Yeah.
Well, we knew there wouldn't be any answers, but I appreciate, Mark, your analysis of the different ideas. It gives us at least a few things to talk.
So
Yeah.
is somebody gonna then look at some other options that are working with kind of both of those,
Well, these
like
options
service
are
and?
Working models.
I'll be happy to look at that.
I
Yeah,
think that's what we wanna see, is just working
Yeah.
models of those options.
What the other counties are
Uh-huh.
doing.
yeah,
Sure. Us, Utah, and then maybe some surrounding.
yeah. And you might check into King County down there.
Sure.
See what the status is of that.
so maybe Washington too, just the second class counties at least
Mhm.
in Utah.
What is Washington County?
Washington's the second class.
No, but do they
Oh, I
have, do
don't
they
know.
run their own? I don't,
know.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. But I think it'd be good to look at any, the similar sized counties, cause like,
Yeah.
you get a fifth or sixth
Right,
class county and say,
sure.
well,
no,
there's 7 people in the county. It's not the same model.
They don't do anything with their strays.
They shoot 'em.
Someone's backyard.
Shoot.
Back in the day, there was a guy, his name was Lefty.
Shorty.
Shorty. So Shorty, I think, had it in his backyard.
he did.
Shorty, that's my neck of the woods.
So Shorty had it in his backyard. So the county, I think, somewhat coordinated with him. But you were talking about risk elements
Mhm.
and cost. And so he was willing to let his yard be the
Yeah.
accumulation point
Mhm.
of a lot of stuff. But the county was, I think, at risk because he was coordinating on behalf of the county to do all this collection and storing of animals. And so as you look through risk and finances
Yeah.
and those type of things, you have to minimize all of that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where you head, is to say, is it, then you get to this, let's all cities go together. You gotta find the right balance. And if you go to a lesser, there are a lot of gradations of this plan of taking care of a lot of, I think 3 or 4 years ago, there was air conditioning issues out there, and there's a lot of elements that you just have to say, okay, are we gonna keep an environment where what level of care will exist and for how long? And so I think community input has huge value as you start to pivot from where you thought we were, where we are, and where you need to go. I think public input has a great deal of value to that, and that guides then the decisions of how much and what level of care and for how long.
Well, if you remember, when we had the air conditioning problem out there, there was no lack of community interest
And input,
and input.
yeah.
And we had 3 radio or TV stations up, pouncing on us.
Exactly. Well, and that level of understanding and care and education.
Yeah.
Needs to be broadened to
Yeah.
a broader base of people in the community who actually could potentially vote.
Mhm.
To say,
Yeah,
this is the direction we want, or a survey could be had.
Mhm.
So,
we kind of like the library.
Yeah.
Issue, yeah, get the you gotta have a public lot.
You
But-
do.
But there's public that would be very advocates of making sure that we had a good care out there for the animals.
And they can go advocate to their neighbors,
Yeah,
right? I
yeah.
mean, that's how it works when you're
So,
passionate
and I
about
don't think you
something.
spring it on them immediately, but you say, a year from now, we are going to, or when the bond, it's too hard to wait 5 years for the bond to retire to have a decision. So I think you immediately say, a year from now, the new structure will be. And then you do explore all the options to get to that point a year from now, knowing that the bond, and that the bond is just gonna fold into that decision.
Sure, to whatever the new model is.
Yeah,
You know what we might wanna do? Just a wild idea is, once Mark does his research, maybe invite some community activists that are very much involved with the community. We know, we have some names based upon, invite them into a discussion, just say, okay, what's your suggestion? Start with kind of a, roundtable discussion
I
with
like that.
10 or 15
I
people.
like that.
So we don't think, it's not gonna be driven from us, it's gonna be driven by
community,
the
Mhm.
community out there.
that's very healthy.
So I think but I think we need to, before we do that, we need to narrow it down and say, look, we've got a couple of maybe two options, maybe 3. Where would you like this to go? But I think we need to make it clear, look, it's time to make a change in directions. You tell us what your group would like to see happen
Mhm.
in Weaver County. And then listen,
Yeah, I like that.
so.
So if you could follow up on that, Mark, that would be helpful and then bring that back and
Kick it around again.
kick it around again. We'll kick it around again, but I think start to involve the community at that point.
No,
And that's a big step forward when you do that.
Yeah, then you have then you have some community support. It's not all, hey, just these 3 commissioners shoving
Making
this
all
down
the
our throat. It's
decisions,
like, okay, we really gotta do this because it's about the animals and how do we take care of them and, yeah, at the lowest potential cost,
Right.
so.
Okay.
I like it.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for this report.
Yeah.
Who used it?
All righty.
You guys got, is Bill out there?
We should have
Okay.
Bill and
Hey,
Emily.
thanks.
Is it
Gentlemen?
there too, right?
What's that?
Is it Emily's coming?
Yeah, Emily's coming as well.
Okay. No discussing.
On time.
Okay. We're on agenda item 5 now, closed session to discuss character and competence of an individual. We have Bill Ross, Sean Wilkinson, Scott Park, Emily Wild, and Stephanie Ebert. So looking for a motion to go to a closed session.
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we're coming out of our closed session. Looking for a motion.
Motion to move out of closed session and go back in our regular public meeting.
Second, all in favor?
Aye,
Okay. We are close to on time.
wow, look at that. Oh my God, roll foundation of 4 o'clock. That doesn't, it's not 4 o'clock. I
Oh, it might be.
thought it was at 6.
12th Street funding.
Okay, so that is right now. Okay. All right.
Oh. 6 p.m. for dinner, I guess.
Oh,
You know what they do there?
oh, I've never been. You haven't?
No.
I'm surprised.
Usually send Harvey, he likes those things.
No. He's having a lot of fun without us, so
I'll bet.
Have you heard from him?
I heard from him all weekend.
Oh, okay.
He wished me
No,
a
he didn't
happy
even text-
Mother's Day.
He didn't text me. Well, of course, I was in Philadelphia, so I
Of
didn't.
course, I have Jane on the text thread, so he's on his best behavior.
Oh. Probably a good thing, yeah. Who we got next?
12th Street funding discussion,
12th Street.
Sean, myself, and
Gary, Tucker, and Brooke.
There's been a slight change in the agenda.
Okay.
The sheriff wanted the 2:30 spot, so we've traded those two.
Is he here? We ready?
He's supposed to be.
Oh.
He called this morning. I
Oh.
forgot to mention. I'm sorry.
Okay, all right.
be back in a half
All
hour.
righty.
So we're switching 2:30 to 3?
Yeah.
I wish.
Been out on business,
On business?
lots going on.
Okay,
All right, we're back to agenda item. We're skipping to item 7 here to accommodate the sheriff's schedule, so.
thank you for the accommodation. The reason for the change is because of my recent adventure. KRNS has asked me for an interview on the radio, so
Oh.
that's where I'm going.
Oh, well, good for you.
So if you were on KSL, you'd see that there was an article about me going to the border.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, so,
It's
yeah.
about the border.
Yeah, so, real quick, we went down to a, human trafficking conference in Chandler, Arizona. And then it was, 4 days long. And, while we were fast, Cochise County, Arizona, which is the southeast corner, massive county. Sheriff Daniels is very outspoken about the border problems, and I've met him a couple of times, and I said, let's go down there while we're there, let's see, and so he said, sure, come on down. We went and did a tour of his problems. We did ride-alongs with their interdiction unit, and we learned some wild
Wow.
stuff. And then we went over to Tucson sector of the Border Patrol and did a tour of their facilities. And I can tell you all, we're in the wrong business to make money. There's a soft site processing center that processes about 1,000 a day, and to operate that soft site facility is 17 million a month.
That I'm sure is federal money.
Of course, and there's 300 contractors that help
Oh,
operate.
wow.
Wow.
So there's money to be made in that business is what you're telling me.
Yes, I'm being funny here,
Yeah.
but it was just astounding. So
Hmm.
with that, one thing I wanted to report to you guys today. Stuart might be reaching out to you. When we do specialty things, I always make sure there's an agenda, there's an objective, and there's a return and report component. Like we did, we went to San Diego for the drones and the jail expansion. This one is about the border, and then the objective was, how does it impact Utah? And why should we go down there? We've answered all that. We took video cameras, we took pictures. We're gonna put a presentation together for groups in public. So we're meeting, I think, Wednesday, all of us that went to the border and strategize how that's to be done.
Nice.
And yeah, so I was invited to the Weber County Republicans Women Meeting today, and they asked me to give a short report that ended up being an hour.
Wow.
And I had to show them the pictures I had from my phone, but it's amazing.
Hmm.
There's a lot of stuff that the public just does not know.
I'm
And
sure.
our
that-
federal agencies have really, the leaders, whoever they are, they've dropped the ball.
Hmm.
It impacts every state. It does. We're a border county. We created a border to create this county, right? Border states. So we'll put that together. And so hopefully they'll reach out to you to help with some content editing or whatever else that you could contribute. So,
That's good to know.
yeah, fascinating.
How long were you down there?
Totally, it was 9 days.
Wow.
Conference itself was 4 days, but then you got travel and
Mhm.
and some other stuff. And then we spent, and then Ryan Wilcox came down on our final day to go with Border Patrol. And I only have one or two other small things, but I'll just show you a quick picture of so if you look to your left, so remember how we have the discussion about calendars, fiscal versus
Mhm.
calendar?
Yeah.
Well, you think us in the state and the cities are not in sync. The feds are October to September is their fiscal year. So I'd rather so if you look at that, sorry, those are encounters, meaning contacts. Year to year. So the first column is the amount. Second one, is the year. The next one is the amount. So if you align it with presidencies, it gives you a picture.
Interesting.
And I
Well,
don't know what the acronyms are, those,
That's gone up a little bit, hasn't it?
yeah, 377,000.
Is that crossings or, okay,
It's everybody. Okay, so I'll micro this in a nutshell. Everybody who comes across the border wants a better life, money, environment, everything. But there's two categories. There's the asylum seekers, or they nickname them the give ups. And then there's the ones that don't want to be caught.
Yeah.
Cochise County, the ones that don't want to be caught. The ones at Nogales, San Diego, they're just give ups. Hey, let's go. And they go through the asylum process. So we just learned everything. So we'll probably do a first event with like the CCC, Democrats, Republicans, local leaders, something that's a little more, right? And then we'll do that presentation, and then we'll go to the public and offer a bit to them. So we'll make sure you get invited.
that'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing is, I want to read something to you. It goes along with, the jail. And I want to be very careful. I might misinterpret it, but I think you guys can help me. So this is from Kevin Miller. You know who he is. He's the architect for our drawings,
okay.
GSBS.
Mhm.
This is him sending this to Reese. It was forwarded to me. I was in the shower this morning and realized I made a mistake in our interaction last week. This time, perhaps happily, in your favor. The 31 million budget is an all-in number, escalated to the end of the year. It includes soft costs, including our design fees, FF and E, transition costs and design contingency. If you're going to calculate out fees, it would be on a number more in the neighborhood of 24 million. Maybe a little more if the commission, this is the part you probably won't like, if the commission continues to drag its feet. Now, if the comptroller does what they did before and escalates the 31 million, then it just might be able to get a new booking out of the deal. So he's saying it's probably, he added all the extra costs plus for cushion.
The same thing that Parks added.
I think so. That's how I
What
understand
was the
it.
last line that you said?
So, and this is, sharing this with you is not meant to be divisive or anything, but I think that's interesting. Because remember when we first looked at it, Gage, it was like 15 or 17 million dollars. And so I think there's, well, here, I'll read you the line, then I'll finish my thought. Now, if the comptroller does what they did before and escalates the 31 million, we just might be able to get a new booking out of the deal. That means another add that we don't really need.
Oh,
So
So,
he's looking for an add-on.
yeah, so,
well, he's just saying if we use,
no,
if we use the inflated cost that Park adds his contingencies into.
then we'll have more, essentially have more money than we need.
Okay.
So you guys may remember this, but for me, and this is my mind, this is not criticism nonetheless on any of the others, but the original cost was like 72 or 76 million. Then Bond and Hatch and Scott were saying, you gotta put in extra money, because we don't want to have happen to the school, right? The fear of going over and having to go back for more money.
Yeah.
So he went and added money, and then it went up to like 84 million. And then Scott and Bond were still not comfortable, and then it reached up to 98.
Mhm.
And so there was a lot of inflation within the already inflated cost for inflation. That makes sense. So, and for clarification, I think last time we discussed this, there was having it go out for bid through Horn's office. Is that right? Is that what we were gonna do?
Having what go out for bid?
The cost to build it. 'Cause
No,
you were gonna
not-
do
We're not putting that to, so basically the
it was
procedure,
an RFP or something. You talked about doing the parking garage and ours and something else.
all four of them,
At once, but
all four
Go ahead.
engineers estimate first.
Yes,
So we want all four engineers
Yes.
estimates on cost. Part of the engineer's estimate is what it would cost to get construction drawings. But we're not going to for construction
Okay,
drives.
right, that's why I clarified, but maybe that will help correlate with this and it won't be as much.
Yeah, so.
So I'm hoping
Well,
for.
with an engineer's estimates, then that should come back to us, but we'll have all four
Yes.
engineers' estimates and all four. Basically proposals for construction drawings.
Okay, so maybe that.
So then we can balance where
So
we
then
need to.
we're at the same, so we want to be at the same stage with
Yeah.
all the projects.
Right,
That's where we're at right now, and you're
Right.
ahead of the others.
right. Okay, so anyway, that was an email that was shared with me. So his comments of delay, well, as with any project, it just could cost more and more.
Mhm.
Sure. Well, actually, if you look at construction and the job market over the last 3 or 4 months, it's starting to change.
It's looking in favor.
In favor, oh yeah,
Yes.
so every contractor, job costs are going down. Employment, so just to give you an example here, we put out requests for a job with Stephanie that we had, 10 apply before, we now had 50. Quinn had 61 apply for his job for cybersecurity, where 6 months ago we had like 5, so.
Yeah,
This whole economy is changing,
Yeah.
and it's changing
It
our,
is.
so I'm gonna disagree with your. If you talk to the contractors doing big jobs, they're all forecasting cost will drop by 2 to 3%. Not
Right.
more.
But regardless, we want
But-
all the projects
but-
to be at the same
Yeah.
point. That's
Right.
where we're at, and
But-
you're ahead because you've got the engineer
That's-
estimate.
That's
The others
correct,
don't, so,
right.
that's correct.
so I know,
Yeah, there's,
I know that we're.
this is all good
dragging our
news.
feet, Quote, unquote.
Well, I mean,
That's-
but
But they all have to be at the same stage.
no, I get it. I don't think his dragging the feet was negative. It's just process of time,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
Yeah,
To do this thing from the start, it takes years to get going.
no, it does.
And we're ahead of all of that. So anyway, okay. We're, on paper, we're fully staffed,
Oh,
so you know.
really?
On paper means they're either cadets and waiting, or they're going to
Nice.
the academy, but they're not on the road or in the jail fully staffed, but we're pretty much there, so,
I got a question about that.
yes,
Kiesel's not functioning right now because of staffing. So
yes,
how does your
that
comment
plans
into
on
that?
to be reopened.
Because you have those.
Now we can.
So now you've got people to do it.
So yes and no. So this is where, and just take this with a little bit of salt. We look at things and help to understand process. We see things in black and white. More staff doesn't automatically mean all these other things. But the biggest challenge that we have right now is the attorneys on both sides want a work release center.
Mhm.
Cause a lot of the work release folks are not in jail where they should be, spending their evenings. So if we open that up, it could open a few beds, but we wanna make it a work release center. The problem with work release centers is when the criminals come and go and they bring stuff with them.
Mhm.
So we don't want that stuff brought in to the
The main
12th.
facility.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I don't blame you for that.
So when we look at it like
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
but, so there's our issue, but we still have the problem of the medical and mental health taking up all the cells.
Yeah.
We still have the problem that if we had more cells, we could bring in more marshals and so forth. There's still a lot of moving parts. And so that's what what is the need? Right now, the need is hard space. But then the second is why we want to design the work release center is because the attorneys they have less tools when they're working with the judges to
Mhm.
see which program they show. So right now, work release is not an issue. In fact, we had a private company reach out to us recently in an email asking if they'll take over the work release.
Huh, really?
Yes, we're actually entertaining them, sitting down with them, because we are not gonna do it if the costs are not proper. We're actually looking for a cost that's all on them. But if they order work release in the past has been like 10 or something dollars a day. In some cases, but if we want to charge that to the group, fine. But they manage it all the work release, the check-ins and all
So
that.
Really?
so what facility they use?
Do they use
I don't
our?
know if they have one or not.
Oh, I was thinking they use our facility, but they manage it.
We don't know. That's the
Oh.
unknown. Because the lady that contacted me, her conversation seemed scripted and a little vague. And I said, look, I don't mean to be rude here, but I feel like this is a sales pitch going south really quick. You're not telling me everything. Well, I need to have my supervisor involved. So I said, okay, we'll talk, but it just seemed really weird. And I don't know if she knew what she was talking about either. She's
That's pretty
probably just,
strange.
yeah. But, yeah, so, Chief Reese is setting up a meeting with
Yeah.
them to see what their proposal might be, something good for us.
No, well, if you got Kiesel and they can staff it, I
Yeah,
mean, for less than we can.
if that's what it means.
If that's what-
Exactly.
Facility and.
I know, right? There's a lot of, I mean, there's so much out there. I told you about the state interested in maybe buying it, the Fed's interested in buying it. There's just a lot of talk, but none of it's in writing right now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Interesting. Okay, good to know.
What do you have for me? What can I help you guys with?
Nothing from me.
No, I'm good. Just so you understand, you know, kind of where we're going through with these capital projects. So,
No, I get it. I just, the language that you guys are using is not in my business, so I need clarification. You know, so that's why I was mentioning that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but we are making progress,
Yes,
slow but sure.
okay. That's it.
Alrighty, thank you.
Thanks for adjusting my
Good seeing
calendar.
you. Looking forward to getting
Enjoy
that
your
report.
interview. Send us a link.
I'll send you a link on that and then I'll send you,
Is that radio or TV?
so the radio is this afternoon, the KSL was. It was Tim Bannernack now works for KSL.
Mhm.
He does, yeah.
That's who contacted you?
So he found out that I was going to the border, so he actually called me while I was down there and says, hey, can you do that interview now? I go, I'm still down here. So the day I got back, he was in my office. And he actually is pretty good. Doesn't cover everything, but it's pretty fair.
Tim's usually pretty fair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, just send it, KSL.
Oh,
Got it.
awesome.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks, Ryan.
If the others are out there, send them in. I don't know if they waited or. Kind of quiet.
Hello?
Yeah, there's no one here right now.
Okay, thanks.
See, I always wondered that when it's my time to go, that's where the voice would come from.
There's no one here.
No.
Okay, well, we might as well, motion us honor them
Let's, motion dishonor till,
until 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock.
Second, all in favor?
Aye. Yeah. Got off the phone.
Okay. We're back to agenda item 6 now, a discussion regarding 12th Street funding. Tucker Wade, Gary Myers, Sean Wilkinson's not here, Scott Park, Brooke Stewart. Tucker,
So we put out to bid our 12th Street construction project. We got some bids back. And the bids came back at 9.1, just a little over 9.1. We started looking at how much money we have. So we talked to Brooke a little bit and we got, so the balance we have from WACOG is just over $11 million. Which doesn't quite cover everything, because we have to cover our construction costs, our design for the civil engineer. Our construction management, and also we have that, and we talked a little while ago about it, the agreement we have with Beaver Basin Water for a cost share of their water line. And then also we wanna have a contingency, because stuff always happens, especially out on 12th Street, we'll figure stuff out. So we had kind of a little discussion between us, and we kind of feel like we need another $2 million to really get this project to where we wanna end at 8,300. And
So
so
does this take us to 83?
this will take us to 83, the design takes us to 83, which is the 9.1.
Yeah, okay.
So really, but we can't make it that far unless we get some more money, so that's why we're here. And we talked with Sean a little bit, and we're hoping maybe Prop 1 funds could cover this. We'll talk with Scott and everyone, so hopefully that explains kind of why we're here, and I don't know if you guys have questions or concerns.
Maybe one thing to keep in mind too, commissioners, originally, there's been a lot of time, effort. And phases into this project of 12th Street. It all started really as early as back in 2013. And that's when the initial requests were sent in and requested from not WFRC, WACOG. I'm sorry, Brooke, that was rude of me. Have it. So the original cost request went in, however, that's been 11 years ago. And in 11 years, we've seen a fair amount of increase in our construction costs, material costs, labor costs, all that. And so we we hate to go into a construction project with no contingency out there. You just never know what surprises, what hidden landmines you're gonna have. And this identifies 15% contingency for us. But then we did just basically, since we were like 1.8, we rounded it up to 2, because it seems like there's always something. Now, obviously, if we don't spend it, we would refund it back to the Prop 1 account, so. Any questions?
any questions?
How much do we have in the Prop 1 fund?
Prop 1 fund has $2.7 million that are I don't wanna say unallocated, they just haven't been dedicated to a specific project.
Right.
So, there's 11.5 million in there now, but most of it's, the rest of it's been earmarked to certain projects, so 7.2, this would take 2 million of that 7.2. I think we'd be able to afford it.
Do we have anything else? Brooke may be able to answer this. Looking like we have another request for Prop 1 on any of our projects that are currently, any overruns that we're seeing?
So I think those come from roads, which do you guys, am I
Yeah,
aware of
we,
what?
the major projects have been allocated.
Okay,
We have bits and pieces here.
Yeah.
That don't really affect the budget that come in, but Rulon White and the overlay on 162 are the only 2 big projects we have budgeted for this year.
okay.
For Prop 1?
Yeah. for Prop
So
one.
you think we'd be okay without?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I mean, the real question is, do you wanna, what other Prop 1 roads could we fix if we didn't fix 12th Street? Could we do
Right, right,
2550,
Right.
Yeah.
4700?
Yeah.
But that's just a case of prioritizing which road you wanna do.
And there is something to be said about finishing this out to 8,300, right? We've got a
Mhm.
contractor selected. You'll see a contract. We've been waiting to finalize the contract while we're still hammering through the agreement with Weaver Basin. But hopefully you might see a contract before you by Tuesday of next week. our
Really?
Commission meeting.
So this water line cost is that our portion?
It is.
And is it the full 1.8? I know we were
Yeah,
kind of.
so we're hoping to get that lower. We're going back and forth with them right now.
Oh, on our
So,
share?
Yeah. So
What's
we-
their
we-
share?
Well,
Theirs is like 5 something.
that's a complicated answer. So the way the agreement works is we split the cost of the replacement of in-kind size right now, which is a 16-inch water line. What we're installing is actually a 30-inch. So their costs are significantly higher than what this 50-50 split would be. So what we did is we had the contractor bid the install price, and then we also had them give us a comparative bid as if it was a 16-inch line, not a 30-inch line. So that means slightly different prices on
Okay.
everything, so.
So bottom line, just make sure everybody's clear, if we went ahead with the project without Weaver Basin, we would be replacing the 16-inch,
Correct.
which would be probably close to this 1.8.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then, but Weaver Basin, because they're upsizing, is basically paying the cost difference,
correct,
so.
correct.
Yeah.
So,
Brooke, on these WACOG projects, sometimes the entities come back and ask for more.
It's an option for this one, and we kind of discussed strategy with it a little bit. And where it's kind of more going toward contingency, our advice would be to come in on the back end. So that we don't come in with a $2 million amendment when maybe it's only a million or, $1.5 million. So that's an option. This one is the largest project that's ever been funded by WACOG. It's had a substantial amount of money gone to it. And it was this last 10 million that they were awarded was kind of a hurdle to get.
Okay.
So there may be a few people that remember
Sure.
that, there may not, but it is one that could come back if that's
Okay,
a desire.
well, yeah, it is contingency almost. Well, yeah. It really fully lies
Yeah.
within that contingency.
And I think it's a lessons learned with some things, because I know we did one last year that came in once their bid was out. So they thought they knew, and it's probably needs an additional million that the
Mhm.
city's gonna try and find. So it's kind of nice if they can get into it, and then we can kind of see what the real number is.
Yeah.
Cause it's unfortunate if they have to come back and ask for multiple amendments, especially if they're large.
Right, okay. Any other questions?
No, I think I'm good with them.
I'm good with it. If you
So
are,
I will
Scott,
put in a
it's ready.
budget change, because we didn't appropriate it, we just have it in fund balance.
Right.
I'll put it through Kissel if you'll sign off on that.
Okay.
We'll just round the $2 million number.
Okay.
okay, awesome.
But let's not spend it all.
But it's last
Yeah.
money in, right?
That's the goal.
Let's not
It is
spend
last
it all.
money.
That's the goal.
I'd almost like to see 1.5, but I'll trust you.
Hey, with any luck, we come back with the $2 million over
Yeah,
amount that we didn't spend that we are giving back. So that's our goal.
well, I think you're seeing,
Got laughs.
we had that conversation with the sheriff. I think you're starting to see kind of a de-escalation of these prices. A lot more people in the job market right now. Inflation appears to be headed down, and construction, a lot of these contractors now were out looking for work where a year ago, they were 2 years out. So
Yeah.
I think you're starting to see a shift for better or worse.
Yeah, I think
I
that's a
hope
good
so.
price, don't you think?
I feel really good. I'm happy with who we got. I'm happy with who bid. We had great options. We really did.
So who bid it?
We had Staker Parson, who was the successful bidder. We got bids from Geneva Rock as well as Leon Polson Construction.
Oh,
So all of them are familiar with the area. They
Yeah.
know the project. They know
Mhm.
what it consists of. This is tricky area to do work. There's a lot of groundwater. And on top of that, they cannot shut down or impact farmers' abilities to farm or irrigate. So it gets a little bit tricky there too, that they're having to manage and flow tailwater. Our ditches out there operate not only for groundwater, stormwater, but also irrigation tailwater out there as well too. So it's not just slam the pipe in the ground and move on. They've gotta be paying attention what's going on. So,
Okay,
okay.
all right, thank you.
thank you.
Thanks, folks.
You heard from Congressman Moore's office,
Yeah.
Congressman Moore's office.
Yeah.
The application is for the convention.
We were just talking to Brett.
Oh, you're good.
They want to have a discussion, they want to set up a time to talk.
That's the stormwater.
You know,
Yeah,
to
so.
potentially taking over the sewer.
How much do you have on that?
Well.
That's the
application, I
conversation.
put 14 million in.
So he's had an
Well,
appetite.
but I
to do
said
it,
we could do just.
But he doesn't know
I
what the
put 3
board
phases,
does or
3
anything
from
like that,
5.
so.
renew the lease on the lagoon system.
Could not agree more.
They hate, like, their chair basically told Sean and I, we hate lagoons.
Well, specifically, that one's.
You should be.
Yeah,
I still don't know on
so
that.
we wanna prepare.
Just let me
Thanks, Scott.
know.
We can share.
When you
And Sean, you're right.
I got plenty.
Yeah.
Okay, I will.
Every
Well, I
day
thought
sewer,
Yeah, I think that's it's probably a good idea to do.
West Gifford sewer
So
or
I've been putting
talks about the
survey
sewer every day.
question.
That's our job.
A lot of sewer.
Okay,
Hey,
looks like we're
do it.
still waiting on Portland, but we'll move on to item 8, which is discussion update on trail impact fee. Chad Meyerhofer, Charlie Ewert, Portland Erickson, Sean Wilkinson, Gary Myers.
Okay, well, I guess I can kind of
Yeah.
start out, give you a little bit of a background on this. So usually about every, 5 to 7 years, or maybe 7 to 10 years, we look at updating our impact fees. And so it's kind of overdue. Last time we started started in about 2013. We didn't actually adopt it till 2018. It's kind of like a moving target. Every time we think we did it, we find something else. And so it just kind of keeps snowballing. But we started this process in 2022 of updating this, and we're just kind of getting to the point right now where we're getting a lot of them done, but we need to hurry and get the trails one done, so we've decided to move forward with this. And just to let you know too, we got Susie Becker on here as well, who's
Yep.
with Zion's Public Finance, who's
Hi, Susie.
Hi, Susie.
the one been doing this. So when me and Charlie can't answer her questions, we know she can. So, I'd like to let Charlie kind of go through, he's kind of driven this mostly with the trails and kind of what he's gone through, and then we do have some numbers to kind of have to look at and maybe make a decision and see how to proceed, and we'd like to try to get this on a commission agenda as quickly as we can next time to move forward, so.
Yeah, it takes, 45 days after the decision before we can start
I
charging?
think it's 90 days.
Oh, 90.
after. Yep, 90 days after you adopt it through the county commission, that there's a waiting period before we can actually enact the fee. So,
We've got, how much is in the fund right now?
I can,
It's like 1.5 million or something like that.
Yeah,
We've got a bit in the
it's
fund that needs to be spent. And so some of this is about making sure that we've got the right projects in line, not just projects, a lot of for a very long time, a lot of the money, impact fee dollars, was just spent in the Ogden Valley, not a whole lot going out west. A little bit here and there, just wasn't as much development activity going on out west. Now with the new general plan, we've got a heck of a lot more going on out west. So we've got new trail ideas in Uinta Highlands area along Comby Drive. We've got every single one of the main roads out there in the western Weber area, both proposed and existing. The main roads being the collector streets will have like a adjacent pathway to go with it. So when we put all those numbers together, we get what Susie brought us. And what was the impact fee dollar amount? Do you remember?
so right now with what's being proposed, and correct me if I'm wrong,
What
Susie,
page
on
are you
this,
on?
but what's that?
What page are you on?
So this
It's
one's.
it's
Oh,
not,
not what I have.
that's the
Sorry.
IFA.
So that's the IFP, so that's the impact fee facilities
Okay.
plan, and then this is the impact fee analysis, and I apologize for not.
All right, go ahead.
putting a Copy of it for you, but, so they have two different numbers here. One's for single family housing, and the amount there's $2,916.17. And then a multifamily housing, which comes out to be $2,446.79. To put that in perspective, what we are currently charging as the county, we have just one set fee for Upper and Lower Valley, because we have the connector of the Ogden Canyon Trail and the North Ogden Divide Trail that are going in. So right now, we are charging $1,350. What Zion's Bank had looked at, and this was through the study that we adopted in 2018. Once again, sorry, I should print all these off for you, but the ability that we had on charging back then, they had one for single family dwelling of 2214, a multifamily of 1977, and then they had given us like an all housing unit of $2,147. And so back at that time, prior to that, in 2007, the amounts were $988 for the Upper Valley, and $508 for the Lower Valley. And so I think the idea and the reasoning, and I'm trying to shoot from the hip here on what it was, they didn't want to astronomically increase it by a lot back then. And so that's why we went with the 1350 at that point. So
So we were justified at that time to.
We went to 1350, but Susie study showed, give me that number.
That we could have gone up to as much as for a single family dwelling, 2214.
So almost 900 more.
And that was back in 2018. Now,
28.
now we're looking at, what's the new number?
29.
29.
16.
Okay,
Keep in mind too, that 2018 study, like I said, kind of took us about 6 years and a lot of that was us looking at the different projects and just like now we're kind of going through that same thing. It seems like we have have our plan just about done and then we have a big project that comes in that we need to reevaluate. So a little bit of challenges there for it, but I think we're pretty good on getting these done, so.
Yeah, and it's a little bit more of a, I think, a good coordinated effort between planning and engineering, getting the different projects that engineering's working on and that planning's working on off the ground, making sure we're implementing the general plan. So I think it's very helpful. I think this number, regardless of which number you choose, is helpful. You guys don't have to say we're going to 2916. You could say any number less than that if you want to. We just don't have justification to charge more than that, based on existing levels of service. Sean has also tasked Gary's department and the planning department to come up with a 5-year spending plan for impact fees. I mean, something that we need to do anyway. And we usually do it on an annual basis, but this year we're looking at the new general plan and exactly what are the missing links in the new general plan. Something that's interesting about this map here, and sorry, the blues are kind of blending together. So we got the big blue line, that's the river. But the other blue lines, those are trails being proposed, either proposed or existing, approved, excuse me, not existing, approved by developers. So we could see that we're already getting some of those trails going through the approval process and getting, getting approved. As soon as we see those built, those blue lines will just have trails that go to nowhere, right? That's what it's gonna look like. The brown lines, I drew these brown lines along those roadways where adjacent land is not developed, where we have a reasonable expectation that the developer will put those trails in as part of their project. When we take the difference between what's being proposed versus what developers have the potential of putting in the future, you get the green lines. These green lines go past existing development, they go past development or land that's unlikely to ever see additional development. So we're never gonna get that extra impact fee dollar coming out of that project, nor will we get them at a point that, is it likely we'll get them at a point where we can exact additional right of way or trails from them. Those are the ones that we want to be focusing on filling in the gaps. Now, technically, anywhere these brown lines are, they're on the general plan and they're the maps that are in the back, we are adopting the general plan maps. As far as trail alignments go. You can see that here. See. There we go, general plan map. Now, small map on that page, but this is what the general plan shows, and we've got a bigger one. So each of these lines line up with that. You could use impact fees for any of these, even some of the ones that the developers are proposing. Not that we should let the developers pay for their own, but. So this is kind of a way to conceptualize how spending should occur over the next few years, to prioritize how to fill in the gaps between what developers are currently doing, what previous development happened where we didn't get these facilities versus what developers could continue to do in the future. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, any questions about that?
You have questions?
no,
I got a question. So the 2018 study showed proposed impact fees of 2,200 and 1,900. So each of those is increased on this most recent study. My question is this, what would be the reason we wouldn't charge the full amount? And if the answer is that because we require developers to build some of those, then how do we find that sweet spot of what we're not spending because it's being built by someone else?
It's not because we're requiring developers to build some of those. So There's two answers to your question. First answer is why didn't we charge the full amount?
Or why don't we now? I
back in
mean,
2018?
not even about the past, but why wouldn't we
Why
now go
wouldn't
for
we?
29, 16 and 24?
Just a matter of the shock the sticker shock
Yeah.
it might
But
cause.
you're collecting for future projects that are gonna be necessary
Correct.
to,
So if we don't take that difference, if I can fill in the blank of what you're saying, if we don't take that difference, then yeah, someone else is gonna have to pay for
Right.
it, which would be the taxpayer, not the developer. Yes. So our recommendation, I mean, we'd love to see the full amount, but you know, we understand that development costs a lot and
I know development costs a lot and there's a sticker shock to it. I get that component, but if we don't collect it. And we're collecting it based on future need, and if we don't collect it and it's needed in the future, then the general taxpayers are paying it.
Yep.
That's the issue I have with not going the full amount.
Yeah, and
So I don't know where you're at.
well, I don't, I hate impact fees,
Mhm.
basically, because.
They get passed along.
we do too.
You know, they get passed along to the buyer.
Yeah, I mean, we know who pays for it. End of the day, the home buyer, and we keep getting beat up about the price of housing and attainable housing. At the same time, I'm the trails guy. And if you go to any, livable city that doesn't have trails versus one that does, you'll know which one you wanna live in.
Correct.
Yep.
So trails are very important too, as we increase the population. The only thing that, in my opinion, that kind of saves us is our trails. When I say saves us, gives us other opportunities.
Okay.
So, I do have a question, Madam Chair, if I might. So if we were to raise it to that amount, which areas do you have projects in mind that right now that those monies would be spent? And
Yeah.
if so, is that your circles here?
Yeah, so the circles, they're the half-mile radiuses from existing schools. Those are areas we'd really want to focus on filling in. Maybe even where some of those brown lines are inside of there using impact fee dollars. We might get ahead of development a little bit. I shot Cortland over a question earlier today. Not expecting him to have an answer by tonight. Question is if we go ahead and install some of those trails, could we then charge the developer of that, the future developer of that property for the thing that they didn't put in themselves? And so we can kind of scope that out a little
We're
bit.
waiting for an answer on that.
We are,
Yeah,
unless he has one.
Cause I like that question.
Yeah, no,
I didn't want to put him on the spot.
Liam and I both received the email, and Liam was looking into it a little bit, and he thought there might be a way to accomplish it if the property owner would agree to that. As far as impact fees, we would have to look into that and see what the allowance would be for that. Because, I mean, typically it is, as I understand it, not done with something that we've done in the past, and then we go and collect an impact fee. That's kind of backwards from how
Right.
it normally works, but we could look into that.
And I gotta be honest, some of the best ways to do impact fee accounting is to spend the money up front, as long as you know the development's gonna happen, spend the money up front, because then you know exactly how much it costs, and then get that infrastructure paid back by the developer through future impact fees.
I don't know if Ramsey has any.
So how do you do that though? I mean, I like that idea.
Yeah.
If we know where the trails need to go,
Mhm.
we get there before development takes place. It's our dollars are being spent.
Yep.
At the same time, it's no different than if we went in and built a road. We paid for the road. Now the developer comes in, he's off the hook for paying for his share of the road.
Yep.
That's, the
So-
property owner now takes a major incentive because the developer doesn't have to pay those, so the price of his dirt goes up.
Yep.
So
Agreed.
I would like to make sure that if there's a way we do that, we
Yeah.
collect either from the property owner and or future development.
Yeah.
Because that's who benefits from it.
It does, exactly. It's very similar to how we did the sewer lift station
Yeah.
over in Taylor Landing. So we've got impact fees going to pay that cost back. It's kind of like pioneering, but the county would be the one fronting the money up.
Right,
So other jurisdictions, I like to think of impact fees in terms of what kind of fluid can go through a pipe, right? If your pipe is at max capacity, your full level of service is the entire pipe is consumed and you can't fit anything else in there, right? But if our current level of service is that pipe is half full and half flowing, and we could fit another half in there, well, maybe we oversize the pipe so that we can get that other half later. Instead of having a developer in the future come in and put another parallel pipe in, for
Mhm.
example. But instead of having that developer save the dollars, because we spent the money before, that developer's impact fee dollars would go
Go back
into
into it.
reimbursement. So
They're not really off the hook.
at the end of the day,
right?
it's just a different accounting. You're just flipping the accounting up the other way around.
You'd be using those impact fees for other projects that would
That's-
fall within the
That's right.
development needs.
That's right. And my question to the attorneys was twofold, and we can work out the kinks on that, because I wanted to know, I know, number one, I know that we can put in the infrastructure and have them pay us back with impact fees over time. I know we can do that. Jurisdictions do that
Right.
already.
Yeah, if it develop, I agree, if the property develops and you put homes on it, you get, basically you're just paying yourself back.
Yeah.
The money that you've already spent. If the property doesn't develop, of course, then somebody else is paying for it.
Yep.
I believe that's the question.
I got you. Yeah, and that's a question of probability over time, right?
Well, I think you have to, the decision is, does putting in one section of that trail, even knowing that it may never be developed, benefit the entire community?
Yeah.
And if it does, then I'm probably okay with it.
And do it.
Yeah,
And then if we can get paid
Yeah,
back
there's-
in part, then it's
yeah,
just gravy after that. I like that idea. The other thing, if we do it, if we spend a little bit up front, and then use the impact fees for payback, is you don't have your time limit on spending. When you collect impact fees, you have to
Yeah.
spend those impact fees within a certain period of time. If
right.
we want to keep Scott Park happy, we'll go out and we'll spend some money and then have impact fees replenish that money instead, because you could do that over the next 10 to 20 years. I don't know what the far end horizon is. There may be an upper threshold on that, but it's more than 6 years on that. So if we put the money in upfront, we already know what the impact is going to be, and we know what the cost from the developer should be based on the number that Susie got us.
Yeah.
So
And that makes, in my mind, that makes sense.
we'll get a little bit more information. So there's 2 other projects that we're looking at, not just what's inside these yellow circles. Comby Drive in the Uinta Highlands area. We've got one planning commissioner from the Uinta Highlands area who's really passionate about trying to get a multi-use walking path adjacent to Comby. It's in some places that right of way is a little narrow, other places it's very steep, even in the right of way. So there's gonna be some pretty big expenses to do that. And then one other one is on 4,000 North. Far West has already completed a trail on 4,000 North to Far West city boundaries. And so it'd be up to us to pick it up from there and go to the rail trail. So all of those have been updated in this most updated study. So if it gets adopted, we can start spending money on it.
Yeah.
And something to consider too, UDOT just created the Utah Trail Network. And they have $42 million and are looking for projects. So they're taking on the 3-gate trail, as you guys know, yeah. But there's opportunity for us to apply for other projects, specifically if they tie into UDOT, existing UDOT corridors. And so consider that, Charlie, as you're doing your study.
Yeah.
What we can actually go to Utah Trail Network and ask for them to take on.
Yeah, and there's additional one above and beyond the Utah Trail Network, which is Beehive Trails, which is a similar effort. Utah Trail Network, they're trying to almost like make trail highways,
Yeah.
where they've got current vehicle highways. Well, let's find places for trail highways as
Yeah.
well. And so on this map, it's hard to tell where 4700 West is. It's Highway 134. They're kind of on the left side. That's all UDOT. We can use impact fees, and we probably should use impact fees to make trail improvements over time, or have developers make those improvements. But if UDOT comes in and redoes that road, we should be looking to UDOT to make sure that they fund the pathway in with it. Mhm.
And you have to get, the projects have to be adopted, so, and they have to be pretty much shovel ready.
Yeah.
So if you've got anything like that, we can submit anytime during the year.
And shovel ready is hard because you have to get the design done.
That's,
It's always the hiccup for us.
it
but-
is, that's exactly what the criteria is, yeah. They want to come in and take on existing projects that are shovel ready.
We've discussed internally a little bit, like the possibility of getting a contractor to just start putting together design packages for, just generally speaking, for some of these, but that at least gets us one step closer to shovel ready. See how it goes.
Great. So I don't know, Susie, if you have anything to add to that as well. I know it looks like you're on mute. If you want to unmute you, if there's anything you need to add or.
No, I think you guys did a great job. I'm impressed and they were great questions.
Right?
Thank you.
Thanks, Susie.
The only other recommendation or thought that I had on these fees, and this is just, it's more of an accounting side of it from our side when we go to put in for building permits, is the long length of different fees that going in and trying to catch whether it's a multifamily or single family dwelling. I would really like to recommend that we try to keep just one fee there for both of them. And I don't know, Susie, if there's a way of doing that, of averaging them out so that we're just charging the one fee and what that fee would be, but it would make things probably a lot easier for our permit.
I'm okay with
Issues.
that.
I like that idea a lot.
That's easy. We just look up, we're just using the average household size per the census, probably the American Community Survey update. So instead of doing it divided by single and multifamily, we'll just do the average household size overall, which will be slightly smaller. So your fees can be a little less than your single family now, but probably fairly close to it and higher than the multifamily.
Okay. So just give you an idea, that would be somewhere in between the 2,900 and the 2,400.
Yeah,
So we'd be going up probably at least $1,000 more than what we're currently collecting.
so you can say 2,500 thereabouts.
Yeah, somewhere in the middle. So is that what you're recommending, is to adopt the fees?
So right now, we're
reflect the
just, this
current-
is kind of a little bit of a work session, just to
Okay,
get you up to
okay.
date on it before we bring it. We're
Okay.
planning on bringing it to you for the county commission.
Okay.
And then that we'll actually propose it and we'll give you that exact
Okay.
fee on what it is
Perfect.
and give it to you up front, so that we just wanted to kind of get with you a little bit more in a less formal setting to answer any questions before we get into it.
And Chad, this is just for trails at this
It's-
point.
this
The
is,
rest
yeah.
will come
And-
later.
And I apologize, a lot of that's our request onto Susie on asking some other things on the other ones, so. But there is a huge push on the trail one right now to hurry and get it through to money spent on it, so. We did not want to wait any longer on getting this one before you, so. Probably take Susie a little bit more work than us, but we'll try to get them to you as soon as we can as well, so. I think you'll see this on the next commission agenda that we can get on.
Okay,
So,
anything else?
Yeah, so I see that Eric Manning's on here, so my question was gonna be, do we work with the Trails Foundation and with Eric? So
we do.
we're using his resources, because one thing I'd like to see when you bring that plan to us is kind of the long-term plan, just like we do with roads. Okay, let's not have a trail from nowhere.
Right.
Or that goes nowhere. Let's make sure that we're gonna spend money, it ties in and makes sense. So we don't have a mile of trail that nobody's gonna use because it doesn't go anywhere. So I'd like to see, okay, where are we tying these trails together? That we actually have a trail that somebody can use. And I don't know, maybe Eric wants to comment, but are we working with Trails Foundation? So they, they're the experts in trails. They kind of know what it takes. So I'd like their input as well.
Eric, do you have anything?
Yeah, sorry about, I think we've met a few times with Charlie and Gary and Sean and the crew there, and we'd be more than happy to help in any capacity we can. Because it is, a lot, going on, especially in West Weber, especially talking with Charlie, but we'd be more than happy to assist, in any capacity whatsoever. It's a big thing, and I totally agree with you, commissioners. Let's connect them.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm good
Thanks,
with that,
Eric.
Madam
Okay.
Chair.
So I think there'd be three things that you adopt. One will be the impact fee analysis, impact fee facilities plan is the second thing, and then the impact fee itself. And so I don't know if they go on the agenda separately or not. I haven't done that.
I'll just forward through that. I'd assume that it's all just the same one item to adopt all of them, but we'll double check with Susie and Cortland to make sure that we get that on the right way.
We'll look back and see what happened historically, because I think we did them all at the same time historically, but where we're separating them out, we'll have to look and see, but it might be that simple.
Okay, anything else?
Yeah, Gary's department volunteered to keep track of all the little.
With Excel spreadsheets.
Yeah.
Good job, Eric.
That was the one thing I specifically said we will
No.
not do.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, with that, look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, Madam
Second.
Chair.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, commissioners.
Thank you.
Back on course.
Do that.